Welcome to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I know you can feel their discomfort, Aaron. Watching you walk through a room full of white people was the most painful thing I've ever seen.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I want to take you to a job interview. There's a recruiting class starting right now, and we got to get you in it.
Welcome to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I don't really understand.
It's easier to say. What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable. White people feeling uncomfortable precedes a lot of bad stuff for us. That's why we fight white discomfort every day. Because the happier they are, the safer we are.
The name needs a little updating, maybe like magical black people, or I guess that doesn't have the same ring.
Cannot have a relationship with Lizzie now. Because if you don't put Jason first, everyone's magic will fail.
I've always felt like it's my job to make white people feel comfortable, and here it literally is. But maybe it shouldn't be.
What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and lately there's been a weird release of film trailers that all have this very, how do I put this? Well, let's just say politically charged feeling to it. So in this video I want to speak on how Hollywood is seemingly preparing a bunch of films that aim to feel more like propaganda than anything else, and how they all seem to be coming out around the next election year as well. These weird films range from Alex Garland's Civil War, the recently released Leave the World Behind on Netflix, and of course, the eyebrow raising film titled The American Society of Magical Negroes. That last one, by the way, is actually just funny to me, but it has a lot of people asking questions whether the film is racist or not. Which, in a way, yes, but it's also playing on a trope within cinema already. The American Society of Magical Negroes plays on a stereotype within films where a character who is almost always a minority ends up being used storyline-wise to guide the white main character on a journey. A good example of this trope would be Michael Clarke Duncan in The Green Mile, who plays John Coffey, and his character is the soul of that film, but his presence exists within to guide Tom Hanks' character Paul Edgecombe on an emotional journey. Sometimes it's more on the nose with films like Bruce Almighty, where Morgan Freeman just outright plays God, and that one doesn't really need much explanation. I mean, he's literally God, so he's omnipotent and exists within the confines of the movie to guide Jim Carrey's character throughout. That term, by the way, Magical Negro, it was coined by director Spike Lee, who has also made quite a few films where he targets the racial tensions of the past with stuff like Black Klansman, for example. In The American Society of Magical Negroes, however, that film looks to be one part satire comedy, and another a cleverly designed jab at white people in general, who, as you likely know, have become the world's punching bags when it comes to racist remarks. The whole concept of this movie surrounds the idea of a secret society of black people who simply exist to keep the white race happy. There's even a literal meter these magical black people can see, which tells them how far a white person's emotions are, that is explicitly labeled white tears. Whatever nuance the film has, at least from what I can tell anyway, feels like it's lost as its trailer basically commits the cardinal sin, which is that it tells the entire plot of the movie pretty much and makes it almost pointless to watch since we all know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, once I saw the trailer for this movie, I didn't really feel anything for it besides rolling my eyes and seeing yet another on-the-nose circle jerk against the white demographic. Especially when one of the characters in the trailer says that white people are the most dangerous predators on the planet.
What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable.
Hey, I remember when movies made me feel things.
Movies still make me feel things.
feel regret most of the time.
Any semblance of nuance or clever writing kinda goes out the window immediately. As I can already tell, this will be one of those flicks where people will either accept it with open arms as they express their white guilt, and those who reject it will be labeled racist because of the usual isms and phobic nonsense these Hollywood types like to throw around when things don't go the way they want it to. The film likely won't do very well, but it's hilarious seeing people's reactions on Twitter to it, and more specifically that of other black people who watched the trailer. Like this one user who said, "Can black filmmakers come together for a town hall real quick? Please, we have to talk." And this other comment that says, "Ambiguously biracial looking black man risks all of black humanity because he fell for a white woman is certainly a plot choice." I mean, she's out of line, but she's right. It's no surprise that the Hollywood of today is very hungry for things that are both anti-white and racially charged. It's like a weird kink-shaming thing where woke white people froth at the mouth when it comes to these sorts of projects. It's like how I explained last week with Doctor Who's new specials and how that show has a very anti-white, anti-man slant, even though it's made and produced by a team of white people and people like Russell T Davies at the center of it. It's like you have these oftentimes woke white leftist creators who think if they pander and denounce their own skin color, that somehow it'll make them a better person, but it just comes off as pathetic and weirdly creepy at best. There's nothing wrong with making fun of people per se, but this magical movie of nonsense is clearly being created in order to score points by pandering. And it's the kind of film that will cleverly hide its shortcomings behind the guise of identity politics. And by doing so, the American Society of Magical Negroes will conveniently shield itself from any criticism. Regardless, the trailer has made a lot of people raise eyebrows, and for good reason. I mean, without the context of the actual trailer, a lot of people thought this was gonna be a black Harry Potter where black people fight dragons with magic. But instead, it's somehow way lamer than that, and once the trailer goes into the romantic comedy angle, that's when I knew this movie was dead in the water for me anyway. And it's extra hilarious to me that of all the people Kobe Libby could make his self-insert main character fall in love with, in his movie that's titled Magical Negroes, he still makes his main character fall in love with a white woman, which might be another jab at stereotypes, but by God is it on the nose. I do love how things like this have actually made people tell of themselves, like this one user who said, "This is actually disgusting, a movie about making the most destructive people on earth comfortable, then falling in love with one in spite of our own best interest." These sorts of comments make me laugh because it's so obvious that they don't know what they're talking about. And it's even more telling when I juxtapose this film to something more recently released, like Netflix's Leave the World Behind, where there's a scene where two black characters lay in bed amidst a massive cyber attack on the United States, and their first promise to each other is to be wary of white people.
I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be dulled out easily to anyone, especially white people.
Which makes me shake my head because the irony is just off the charts. As you have two black people laying in a bed within a country where they're speaking English, and the premise of the movie is that they can't access technology, like internet or phones, which they rely on heavily in order to live their very comfortable modern lives. Yet they also conveniently forget and refuse to acknowledge that things like the internet were founded by white inventors. The privilege and lack of awareness of these movies is off the charts for me, since the internet as we know it today was founded by people like Bob Kahn, a white American electrical engineer, who worked alongside Vinton Cerf, another American programmer who is also a white man. Then of course the internet wouldn't work unless someone discovered how to harness the power of electricity in order to power the entire world, which you can thank Nikola Tesla for, and yes, Elon Musk named his company after Tesla as well. Yet movies like Leave the World Behind and this magical nonsense will try to act like white people are somehow the devil and the root cause of all evil, while they use things that were founded by and even use languages like English that were developed by white people as well. Look, you're allowed to have your opinions, but can we at least stop this constant hate towards the white people of the world? It's not only tiring, it's dishonest and really disrespectful. And we all know if this Magical Society movie, for example, was made with the reverse of races, it would immediately be considered racist. Especially if a secret society of white people had to ensure black people tiers were within acceptable levels. I always find it interesting how when it comes to the racism of today, it's so openly accepted to be outspoken and against white people. as it's not only racist, it's very damaging. I don't think we should be attacking anyone for their color of skin, but instead we should be judging people based on the contents of their character. The fact there's entire generations of people being born that are being taught nonsense like you shouldn't like people because of their skin color is insane to me. As someone who's part white and Middle Eastern myself, it's aggravating. Human beings are more than the color of their skin. We are not confined by our ethnicities or nationalities. Yet every day it seems like we keep devolving and reducing ourselves willingly into these segregated groups on purpose. I bet a bunch of you just learned something new today since, like I said, you don't learn shit today in today's schools. All you learn is how to line dance, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and Hitler's bad. And I guess you can include infinite amounts of genders when it comes to today's schools too. But a lot of the nonsense coming out of Hollywood these days adheres to this very real concept of us versus them, conservative versus liberal, white versus black mentality. A lot of media today, especially when it comes to the news, is designed to install separation instead of coexistence. Because of course, whether people like to admit it or not, it's easier to control people when they are separated from a more healthy and stable foundation or populace. And that's also why things like the mind virus known as wokeness is so prevalent in today's society. It targets weak-minded individuals who oftentimes come from families without a strong foundation. And when these people who oftentimes come from single-parent households or lack father figures in general, they find community or purpose within these institutions that use propaganda and buzzwords like race or gender in order to rewrite the critical thinking parts of their brains. And that's how you end up with legions of children that are being raised under the mentalities of victimhood mindsets.
Like, oh, like,
No, first of all, I'd like to extend my condolences to all of your dead IPs, your intellectual properties that you love and cherish. I want to extend that condolences to you and your brethren. And the state of entertainment and media as it exists today, I would like to extend my condolences because it's all garbage, red tape, and noise, okay? It's misdirection, okay? It's a bunch of bullshit, okay? But I want to tell you that shit, okay? Right off the bat. And I also want to say that, black people don't run any studios, okay? They don't run any studios, and I realize you acknowledge that in your video, right? But a lot of times this anger, gets misdirected, and I like to keep it where it belongs on other white people. The problem that you have with these projects and everything would never be without white people doing it to each other and shit. So maybe you guys should focus your attention there instead of just talking about the project itself. Maybe you should find other avenues that don't involve us, okay? Because black people aren't responsible for your the fact that you can't see a good movie, okay? All right, we don't care about representation in film as it is today and as it has been for the last 100+ years. Okay, we don't care about it. We have negative representation in there, and today what we get feels like trolling and shit. But I don't know who's being trolled. I don't know if we're being trolled or you guys are being trolled or someone's stirring the pot for some reason. They have to be making these fucking movies for a reason. Okay, I went to goddamn film school. All right, went to fucking film school and shit. I studied film, you know, years ago. And I've been on film sets and shoots and shit. And, you know, there's technical aspects to it, and you know, even before you get there, you know, to the actual, you know, project, you know, you're supposed to have a complete script, and they just, you know, talking outside. Hollywood is talking outside of his ass and using black people as human shields to take all the slings and arrows and shit. Okay, you need to focus. Okay. And I think your comments about black people are, you know, out of line. Okay, I think you're out of pocket and shit. Okay, especially since you identify as a partial Middle Eastern guy. How do you see yourself? Are you white or are you Middle Eastern and whatnot? And if you are, a lot of, you know, full-blooded white people would, you know, use a certain slur for you, regardless of how you felt about them and, you know, how you saw them in your ranks and whatnot. So, you know, I want to say that, you know, I want to give you condolences, and I want to tell you that maybe you should do your due diligence before you talk down to us. Okay? You talk down to us. I'm not calling you anything. You know what you are. All right? Anybody that listens to this bullshit knows what the fuck you are. Okay? Uh, you know, at the end of the day, uh, according to you guys, everything's so fucking complicated. You know, you can't untangle this shit. And, the people that are around today didn't do the atrocities of yesterday. Blah blah blah. We tired of listening to that bullshit. Okay, this is a real black person talking to your ass. We're tired of listening to that bullshit. We don't care about your fucking movies and what happens in those fucking movies, okay? Because we're not running those studios. You don't see any black people running any motherfucking studios. And a biracial guy that made this goddamn movie that got your panties in a bunch, you know, he has nothing to do with us, and he couldn't get that across anyone's desk or into any kind of distribution without the white people helping them and shit, as you pointed out in your fucking video and shit. But I want you to, you know, I want you to table your fucking your issues. Okay, keep that shit behind the door. We don't need to hear about it. Okay, your you know, your biases and shit. Okay, you don't know nothing about our history and our struggle over here. This is, you know, black people born and raised here who fought in several wars and generations. My family has fought in every fucking war that has ever been in America. Okay, we have a steep history and shit. And I don't think that, you know, you have the right to comment on that and shit in the negative. Okay, you don't know shit. You talk about all the inventions that, you know, the people you adopted their ethnicity. You're talking about your adopted ethnicity and shit. You fail to do your due diligence and know that a lot of shit was, you know, a lot of patents and things were stolen. I'm not here to point that out. Okay, I doubt that the platform will allow this video to exist for any good period of time. Okay, but hey, you know, table your bullshit. Okay, you keep that to yourself. I'm sorry about your fucking Star Wars, but you need to take that up with Kathleen Kennedy and shit. And as far as this project goes, there's a ton of white multimillionaires, some billionaires, responsible for this movie seeing the light of day, especially with the title that it has. And you fell for it and shit. Okay, your misplaced adopted white rage makes me laugh my fucking ass off and shit. Okay, buddy. All right, you keep your shit. You know, hold it together, man. Hold it together. And you keep your nose out of our fucking community and shit. Okay, you keep your motherfucking nose out of our community. All right.